Right. So, for starters, I would love to know about your entire journey of B2B industry, that how did you came up with the idea of Honeycomb, Sales Nation, the community building, and what was the entire story was like for you? What was your perspective about it?
Like, how much time you got? Because that's a long journey, and it has been. So originally, I started out in marketing, and even before that, I started my own businesses at the early age
Right.
of 15, 16 years of age.
Oh.
Went into music business a little bit,
Hmm.
more around alternative rock and metal, and building businesses there. And then I went into the startup world and the
Right.
corporate world, more on the e-commerce side, the marketing side, and then basically slid into sales, and that's where I found that something just doesn't add up. Something wasn't clicking for me the way sales was done back in the day, and even today a lot of times. And I found that it's just such a shame that just a few sales leaders and sales reps really have experience with
True.
marketing, and vice versa. So there's a gap there, and I was in the fortunate position to having done both, and that was kind of the initial spark
Right.
uh, for the crusade, or for the journey that I have been on right now, by simply just doing the sales education as we do right now with Sales Nation and Honeycomb.
Right. I think sales education, which is necessary for everyone who is associated in B2B business, either it's product marketer, growth marketer, or demand generation managers, anyone. Because these are the people who are dealing with the customer or consumer in the end. So, that education is very, very important and necessary. A perfect B2B salesman can become an excellent marketer, but it would be hard for marketer to become an excellent sales. Eventually they will, but it will take time, I guess.
Education is really the
Yes.
foundation of everything.
True.
And I've seen, and I've gone myself, I've gone through a lot of sales training, and I've just simply saw that training is not enough, because most of the time a training is just a one-off. You have a day, maybe you have two, or a weekend where you just bombard salespeople and sales leadership and sales management with so much information, but the majority of that knowledge is just gone after 90 days. And that was proven through data. So we forget
True.
very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And when we started this journey with Honeycomb and Sales Nation, basically under a company that is in the educational space.
Right.
And that was kind of the spark for us, the trigger that said, yeah, that's really what we need. That's really what sales needs. It's education rather than training.
Yes.
The consistent pursuit of reskilling, upskilling, and learning new skills and applying new skills. That's really what it is. And you go to school to learn over a certain period of time. It can be 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. But then you apply it every day. You get feedback every day. You get input every day.
Right.
Consistently over a longer period of time. So that's why we love to do what we do in terms of sales education, as opposed to just one-off sales trainings.
So what do you think, looking to the current scenario of the sales people, what do you think? Is there any room of improvement, or what are your thoughts on basically current scenario of the salespeople, the way they are dealing with the consumers, or about the entire process?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement. I think what a lot of sales organizations, what's holding them back is really to kind of look outside the box and see what's on the other side. And that has to do with that gap that is there between sales and marketing, and also other areas of the business. So when we come into a business, we try to break down as many walls as possible, and just equalize the knowledge that is there in the business, and to just transfer that knowledge, because eventually a sales organization grows effectively if they know all the bits and pieces of the whole puzzle, meaning marketing, customer service, strategy wise, what the C-level want in the short term and long term. So I think there's a huge potential there in sales but also in marketing to learn from each other,
Right.
to support each other, and to just ask questions instead of, I've been in the corporate world and I saw that sales and marketing is always like hats off,
Yes.
always like friction, always like,
Yeah.
we hate these guys. We don't like these guys.
Right.
Why don't better leads? And marketing will say, yeah, why don't they close our leads?
Right.
It's all about that being open for new experiences and for the greater good of the business, right? And I see great potential there, especially young sales leaders and sales managers. They really feel that, there's something missing there that we can dive into very deeply.
Okay. So, there is a book by Nelson Gillett. I saw one of the episode on Sales Nation, and he was also guest on Let's Get Candid. So his book, Death of SDR and Birth of Buyer-Centric Revenue Model, right? And I think the new Buyer-Centric Revenue, with the process from start to finish, a single person handle the entire process. So the consumer don't have to, shift to different people as well. So what are your thoughts on it? What model do you support? A buyer-centric model, where the consumer is in the center, or an SDR model, a traditional sales model.
Well, I had Nelson on our Sales Nation podcast just 2 weeks ago, or 1.5 weeks ago, and we had a very interesting, very long conversation about just that. It was longer than we anticipated. Went on with it. I do support in sales in general everything that fundamentally has the buyer at the heart of everything.
Right.
Because we've seen what happens when sales organizations act seller-centric and vendor-centric and sales-centric. That has worked a long time, but the buyer has grown so much in terms of independence, in terms of access to information that they need to make a purchase decision. They don't need sales as much as they did 10, 20 years ago. There was no
social media, there was no connectivity at that point. And also buyers have lots of options out there. If they are not happy with one of the services, they can jump to another company. So it's right now that the company, we have to give our buyers the best if we want to have that customer retention, if we want our long-term plans with the customers. So I think it has to be buyer-centric revenue model any day for the customers, because in the end, consumers are king. So we have to be according to our kings.
I mean, we're in the B2B space. We do sales education for B2B, but you can transfer that to B2C. And if you think about it, classic example is Amazon. I'm a Prime customer. I pay my £7 a month. I have it delivered the next day. I don't need to ask anyone for pricing or for a demo or book a demo here, get in touch with sales. I don't want that as a consumer, as a buyer. I just want to scroll through the description, through the reviews, social proof, peer proof, and then just order it. And the data has shown over the past 5 to 7 years that buyers are so independent right now that peer reviews weigh much more than a call from sales. And buyers avoid talking to sales like the plague.
True.
Just don't call me. Don't call me. Give me a free trial. Give me the pricing. Give me the terms. Give me the knowledge of how long does it take to install it, to, what's the cost
for the process.
So on. The role of sales now has shifted from being a salesman, woman, a salesperson, to a trusted advisor and consultant. And the first thing that I always ask when we go into businesses and go into sales organization, I always ask, when was the last time you honestly said to one of your prospects, we're not the right guys for you? You should rather give XYZ a trial. Because that puts you in a position where you are, as a sales, you're untouchable, because you tell them, we're not the best fit for you. Have you really thought about XYZ? And asking these probing questions, the thought and critical thinking, revealing questions. And I think once you are in that neutral space of, yes, you could go with our solution, absolutely, and I would be happy to sell it to you. But if you move yourself on the other side, in the long run, the impact is so incredible. The impact on your brand reputation, on the retention rate of customers, customer satisfaction, word of mouth. So this is so big once you shift to a buyer-centric model, as Nelson promotes, as we promote, and I promote as well. So you're absolutely spot on with that, and Nelson is spot on with that as well. It's the buyer has to be in the center and at the heart of everything, because otherwise they just go to somewhere else and buy something else.
Right.
They don't need sales.
True. It's like you have to be honest with your buyers, because in the long run, if you're not fit for that, particular what buyer is aiming, then you will have that, love and hate kind of relationship with it. You definitely don't want to have that kind of bad mouth for your company or anything like that. So just be honest on the front side that, this is the XYZ company that we recommend to you. And I think you should go for it. That's the best fit for you. And it's going to make a profit, or, it's going to, help you a lot that rather than us guys.
Yeah, and that's a wink to sales management and sales leadership. The way sales people act that way is because they are being pressured by toxic vanity KPIs, and so they don't really have any chance but to act the way that they have been acting for 20 years. So it's really about leadership management to think about how can we open up and free up the thought process, the attitude of our salespeople by getting rid of toxic KPIs, not all at once. It takes time to shift a sales organization, but you can do it incrementally. You can do it step by step. You just pick 1, 2, or 3 people in your sales team who have that open mind, who are accustomed to LinkedIn, who know their way around buyers and have that open minds and an open attitude, and then just relieve the KPIs, relieve the pressure off of them, and then train them and reskill them on having conversations differently and asking different questions that they've never asked before. And this goes out to sales and leadership. So it needs to change from top down. And then you have the greatest chances to really stand out. And that can be your value proposition, your USP in the market, when buyers actually love to talk to your sales team.
Right.
And really like that conversation and that honesty and transparency.
Right. I think when you are, not put under so much of pressure, or, meeting your KPIs or, data and everything, if you're not under the pressure, a person can perform beautifully out there, because he knows that what he's doing is the best. And, without KPIs, if he or she, it can go beyond that point as well, if that person is not under the pressure or not under that toxic work culture of where majority of B2B sales people are, I guess.
Yeah. And it's a shift. I mean, you don't get rid of KPI in general. You just change KPI to what makes sense in a buyer-centric sales organization, in a buyer-centric conversation flow, buyer-centric outcomes. So you break away from KPIs in general. You just change and exchange the KPIs. I've been in sales organizations where, they have to make, 50 calls a day, 100 calls. That's the 1980s over and over again. And we've run these experiments. We do produce our own data, and we know that buyer behavior has changed. And sales organizations who adapt to that change and map how they sell to how buyers prefer to buy, that's a unique selling point right there. That's the competitive edge that they want.
You have to be consumer in the end, and you have to see according to the consumer's perspective. Do you like it? Do you like to be on the cold call, or do you like to be on the call with the salesperson? If no, then please change the method. It's about perspective, I guess. Like perspective of not, that you are selling your product, but perspective of a, consumer, that if you are on the consumer side, will you do this or not? And if not, then change it, please. Likewise.
A lot of sales leaders refuse to buy the way they pressure their team to sell.
Right.
And we've seen that. I mean, Amazon is the classical example. I'm not being sponsored by Amazon, but I just love it as an example. You have your app on your phone, you buy, and the next day you get it. And if Amazon started selling differently than how consumers prefer to buy, it wouldn't work. Because now Amazon sells the way consumers want to buy. And you can take that from B2C to B2B quite easily. You just ask buyers, right? Don't turn it into an interview, into an investigation about is that a qualified lead or prospect or not. One of the first questions you should be asking further down the line is, what can we do? How would you like to buy from us? It's just a simple question. And then you'll realize, there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through, especially when it's larger corporations with very complex buying procedures and buying committees and so forth. And so it's so much more to it than to just book a demo and kind of see that as a success, which it isn't. A success is really helping the buyer buy from you and helping them through their own purchasing cycle and the hoops that they need to jump through. And when you are on the sales side of it, and you're able to help that buyer through their own process, that's what really stands out. That's what makes everyone happy. Is that I have to talk to the CFO and then the CEO and I don't know, and and then you come in there as a salesperson and say, okay, well, let's do it this way. What do you think? Shall we do it this way and that way? Here's a couple of questions you could ask to facilitate that purchase decision. So there's a lot of things that sales organizations can do if they stop focusing on their own sales cycle and opening up to really seeing the buy cycle and the purchase decision-making process on the buy side, and not just, sit back and relax and let the buyers do what they want to do and need to do, but really be there with them and just guiding them through it and being there with them.
Right. I think majority of the, B2B sales company, what they are looking is for the profit. More the buyers, more the profit. Right. When I'm talking about profit, the one thing which again came into my mind is growth marketing, growth hacking. People or marketers out there, salesperson out there, that growth hacking is a way that we can have, buyers around us or we can have our customers. So what do you think about growth hacking and sales? Do they align together? If you want to boost your sales, do you need to have the knowledge of growth marketing or not?
Well, I think we circle back to the misalignment between sales and marketing and also management and the C-suite. If you push growth, has nothing to do with just growth marketing, because everything has to adapt. If you go from 1 million to 10 million in revenue, you have to do more than just marketing, right? You have to prepare sales for it. You have to prepare customer service for it. You have to prepare maybe even logistics. You have to prepare the IT infrastructure. So the scalability of the organization, but also of the processes inside that organization, that's very important. You need to have the overall strategy in place.
Right.
And if you start small, the process is not right, then you scale on something that is not working. And then you blow it up and you make it bigger and it's still not working. So you have to make sure that before you grow exponentially, everything needs to work like clockwork.
Do you think, growth marketing is a big bet or a buzzword? Because growth marketing is currently the trend. So what are your opinions on either of this?
It depends on the execution.
Okay.
I mean, everything is a buzzword, right? We're moving in cycles. The demand generation is a buzzword. Lead generation was a buzzword. It's all about the execution. And I don't mind any new thing appearing in the sales and marketing field. I just give it a try. And see if there's something to it, if it's scalable, if it's applicable in the day-to-day business. So I don't perceive it as good or bad. I think as long as the foundation is there, we can accelerate growth to a certain degree with certain strategies. Again, if you have the structure in place. So for me, I don't care if it's a buzzword or a legitimate strategy,
Right.
as long as it works, and the data will prove it if it works or not. And yeah, so I'm all for it. Go growth marketing.
Right, right. So I think growth marketing is more of a data-driven strategy because growth marketing is about SEO, email marketing. You invest a lot in growth marketing. It's nothing happened overnight. You have to develop a strategy and have to see that is it, a scalable thing or not. And then you can invest your time. Then you can invest, put your money into it, and then you can expect the ROI out of it. But again, growth marketing or any kind of strategy, either it's demand gen, ABM, it will take time. It will take time to, get the desired results.
You're absolutely right. It does take time, and I think when we just rewind a little bit and look at the big picture, I think one of the most important questions to ask is why.
Right.
Why do we want to implement that? Why do we want growth markets? Why do we want growth? Why
Right.
do we want from 10 to 100 in 12 months time? Is it because we have investors and we want to increase the shareholder value, or is it that we want to do something differently and impact more people? So I think the why is also important, or more important than the execution. But I think every business, especially a startup, but also if you're in that growth phase, you have that potential to really go big.
Right.
Because it's never the best solution that sells best or the best product. It's the best known product
Right.
that outsells the best product, which is absolutely incredible. So you don't have to be necessarily the best out there. You just have to be the best known out there.
Right.
And there's so many people out there in the UK, Steve Bartlett, for example, who just went out there, started his social media marketing agency, winged it. He speaks openly about it. The first 2 or 3 years, I just winged it. I had no idea what I was doing, and I love that. And it is just going out there, doing the best you can, and then really creating your own luck. And I think that's such a great message out there, that you can scale and you can grow tremendously if you stay true to your values, to your ethics. That's one big topic for us in sales education. How can you do sales in an ethical way and aligned with your fundamental values? But it is scalable. It definitely is scalable. So I'm really kind of into the nitty-gritty things of growth marketing and then all the hacks that are out there. If they are based on great why, good values.
When we are talking about why here, so a company also need to see here is that if growth marketing is working for a company, then it might not work for the B company because the products are different, services are different. It's not like, both the companies are the same. So what's working for a company might not work for the B company. So as you told, the why is very important. First, you need to figure out why you want this strategy or why you don't want this strategy, and then go ahead and then invest any amount of money or anything in it, instead of going just because this in trend our company need to do it. That's completely wrong, I think so. And it's like, focus on why. If you're clear with your why, then go with how, when, what, where.
And that's, you're absolutely right. Growth for growth's sakes is never good. That's never the ideal situation. And we also go back to the buyer-centric model. It's about the buyer, and you also mentioned the values, and which I appreciate very much. If we think about the new generation coming into the workforce right now, and coming into management, they have a completely different set of values and how they go about things and why they do things. So I could not envision and picture in my mind a millennial picking up the phone and making 100 calls a day, because that's just not how they operate. That's not who they are. But I can imagine as someone in sales of that generation to be absolutely brilliant in social media, in building relationships, in building awareness, in moving forward with social selling and so on. So you have to also consider these things in terms of values and the next generation of sales and marketing, not only on the vendor side, but also on the buyer side.
Right.
Because millennials love to buy in a certain from companies that they trust, that have very special values that align with their own values. So I think that there's a great change and shift that we are witnessing as we speak right now, a very exciting one.
Right. I think when you talk about millennials and, we have to be according to, or we have to change, the companies have to change according to the time, because the buyers and, salespersons both are changing. The best example here is Amazon, as you say, because I remember whoever is around my circle or whoever are millennials, they, 60% of them are so loyal to Amazon, because that's, they are giving a 360-degree service. We want in short time, we want, with a cost effective method. We don't want to talk with any salesperson and everything. So Amazon is the best example of B2C. And I think it can be same implemented in B2B, because millennials don't like to cold calls or anything like that, but they want everything in textual form. So why not go ahead with that and be consumer friendly?
You're absolutely right. And we've also seen the data on that B2B buyers right now, once they get in touch with sales to validate their decision, let's say they broke it down to 3 or 4 vendors, they get in touch with sales to validate that their decision. They are already 85% through their purchasing journey. Their buy. So they made the decision already. They are completely aware of what's out there on the market. They listen to their peers, they ask their peers, and that's how they make decisions. So I think that also plays a role in how sales as an organization and as a strategy needs to adapt and change to that buying behavior. And you're absolutely right. I think we can learn from Amazon in terms of how they really added so much convenience to the process. Absolutely superior customer service as well. If I have a problem with Amazon, I should pick up the phone or do this little chat thing and they call 30 seconds, or I need the refund or anything like that. There's no questions asked. It's like, yeah, we're very sorry about that and we'll refund you. There's no questions asked. And I think that level of convenience and value that they add to the consumer / the buyer, that is what B2B they should steal it. B2B must steal everything that helps them create very happy buyers in the long term.
Right. I think the best example is TikTok, as B2B selling or B2B buyers are moving on TikToks because of the millennial generation as well. Because we are present on every social media. So you never know where your bias is coming from. You just have to have that omni-channel approach out there. Because you don't want to take a chance. Because if you are not selling that, the other company will sell that. So you better go with all the platforms out there in all the, the transcript of this particular interview, audio format, or the video format. You just have to out there with an omni-channel approach.
Sometimes the buyer is in a mood to consume a podcast, and sometimes he's in a mood to watch some TikTok stuff, and sometimes they're in a mood to just read. You don't know, and you don't get to tell how they consume. They consume the way they find it convenient.
Yes, convenient, true.
Yeah.
Right. So again, coming back to growth marketing and sales. So what are the hacks that you would suggest to the sales people to, for the growth hacking to boost the sales? What are the hacks you would suggest?
One of the things that you can do is to really break down the walls between sales and marketing.
Right.
To let the communication flow and to just have, it's like when you have kind of a quarrel in your relationship.
It's not versus, it's always together.
Yeah. You just sit down and say, listen, what's going on here? So what do we need to know about you guys? And what do you need to know about us? And by the way, that goes both ways. I've seen marketing departments where none of them had talked to a customer before live. And so, but sales did. And so that's kind of the information that needs to flow back and forth. Because how should marketing implement these growth hacks in terms of demand generation, in terms of social, in terms of whatever it is. They need the information from sales, and that needs to flow. And on the other side, sales needs to understand what marketing is doing, how marketing can do the job so that sales receives leads that come with a high buy intent.
Right.
Nothing worse than wasting sales time with leads that have no intention to buy. There's just wasted resources and wasted time and wasted budget.
Right.
The biggest growth hack for sales to move away from traditional sales, the old school sales, like pick up the phone, make 50 cold calls or outreach, cold outreach, unsolicited emails, and so on. That's number one. Steer away from that. Number two is to change the way you design conversations. That's what we do. That's where we sit. Because once you change the way you have conversations, you can change the outcome of that conversation. And you can change it drastically and increase the conversion and the closing rate drastically. And then on the other side, point number 3 or 4, I think, is really to break down any walls that keep departments isolated. And that includes management, that includes leadership, because they can learn so much from the people in sales, from the sales reps, from the marketing assistants, because they have so much insight, and they can drip feed that upwards as well for management, and then to kind of tweak the overall strategy. And it's all for the greater good and for the benefit of the overall business.
Definitely. I think one of the major problems that have been faced by both the, sales and marketing team is listen, marketing team, we are not getting the leads that we are looking for. Okay. He just downloaded an ebook. He's not even qualified the IQL thing. And he will send it as guy. And the MQ will say, well, listen, we have already sent it, which are in the buying, in the pipeline, which are at the bottom of the funnel. So there is this one corner, and I've also created one video on that, the rules for lead handover process from MQL to SQL, which is a must video, to look at it for both marketing and sales as well. Because in the end, it's like a win-win situation. If you are aligned together, the company will boost, and even your work would get enhanced instead of blaming each other.
And once marketing gets the best understanding about the customer, about the potential buyer, they can tweak their marketing and get much higher qualified and better qualified prospects in there. But that also means that sales will have fewer conversations. So again, if you put on top a traditional KPI of you,
that's not going to work.
It doesn't work.
Right.
So you will have fewer conversations, and you need the knowledge to turn these conversations into a successful outcome. It helps that marketing understands how to pre-qualify way more than they are doing right now. Because I'd rather have a salesperson or my sales team talk to 50% less or 50% fewer prospects, but the closing rate and the conversion rate goes up by 50 or 60 or 70%. And the retention rate goes up. And the average transaction value goes up.
Entire methodology has to be changed with sales, marketing, and with the higher management. It's like a, 3 important holy trinity of it. The higher management, marketing, and sales. If the 3 are, aligned very well, then you don't have to worry about your KPIs, and you just have to, focus on your work and with the proper alignment and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
Yes. Coming back to the last question of growth marketing and sales, that, if there is a, downfall with the sales, for an example, a lead generation company is not performing well with the, sales thing, how growth marketing can help, to overcome that downfall and to overcome that entire scenario?
The question is, what was the purpose of that campaign? If you say lead generation campaign, why did we do that campaign? Was it just to fill our funnel with whatever leads, or we don't care about the quality as long as, we get 50 leads a day, we're happy clappy, which is a very bad strategy, by the way. Or is it that the number of very well qualified and prospects goes down. And it's always a case of the back end has to work seamlessly together with the front end. And the back end being sales and the front end being marketing, right? That's what you see out there, the marketing. Then sales in the back end takes over and has these conversations. If a campaign is not running, most of the time, it's the people in that campaign do not talk to the right audience, or they have the wrong message, or number 3, all of it, right? The wrong message to the wrong people.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's what can go wrong. You have the wrong message, you have the wrong target audience, or you have both. And that's the worst case scenario.
Okay.
So the understanding of what are the buyers looking for, what is their pain, what is their challenge, what is the price of doing nothing, what is the gain of facilitating change to them, what can they gain when they choose us from our, or what can they gain from our solution. The marketing needs to have an understanding of that, and they can only get that from sales. So they need to talk to each other.
Right.
And sales needs to tell them, listen, I need to have these kinds of conversations. How do we get these people to talk to us? And it all happens when you focus on demand generation rather than lead generation.
Right.
When you provide value, when you let your sales team go out into social media, not aggressively prospecting, but adding value, strategically adding value, and promoting the brand, promoting the solution as well. So all of that together, it's like a well-oiled machine that you have to build. And I just love building that. Every kind of little screw that needs a little bit of oiling. But that's the beauty of it. It really works beautifully.
Right. So what is the final message that you have for the sales people who are, watching this video currently? What is that message that, who they are struggling, who are struggling to meet that KPIs? What message you would like to give out to them?
My message would be, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you feel that something feels off, most of the time it is. Right? You have this gut feeling, you have your instinct is telling you something is not right. And most of the time your instinct is right. So go out there and just accumulate or gather as much information as you can from outside the box. Talk to other sales leaders, sales managers, sales directors who have similar challenges, maybe in different sectors, maybe in different regions, maybe in different countries. But it's so important to just ask for help. Go on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people out there who just give insights into how it can be done differently and better. And again, just reach out to people who seem to resonate with you on a personal level.
Yes, please go ask for help and don't be afraid. People are generally afraid of asking the questions nowadays. I don't know why. I mean, it's good. If you are having doubt, that means you are interested into it.
I think you're absolutely right. It's kind of, especially when you're a man, you don't like to ask for help. I don't know if that's what kind of thing it is, but I talk to a lot of friends and it's similar. We don't even like to ask for directions to the restaurant, or we don't even like to do that. Now we have responsibility over a sales team of 20, and we don't know why it's not working. So now you expect us to ask for help. But that's the only way. That's the only way that we can learn to accept that something that we do isn't working. And it's absolutely fine to admit that, because that's the first step to change and to make it better and to grow and scale that team and that business. So it's absolutely fine to admit that you have no idea and ask.
Right. Definitely. Thank you so much, Joseph, for giving us your valuable time and coming on the show.
Thank you very much for the invite. I really appreciate it. And I had a very, very good time.